Welcome back, my snacks. My name is Jack. Today's story is giving me weird deja vu of that terrible PS5 dad debacle that happened over the last year or so. It's just another amazing story where a child does one singular thing, which is debatable as to whether or not it's an a-hole move, that just crescendos over time into further events that prove, my god, this dad is terrible. Its latest update was literally yesterday as of recording this, so let's get started from the beginning. 15 days ago. Am I the a-hole for pretending to be missing to teach my dad a lesson? I'm a 16-year-old female, and I attend a private school that I live far away, 10 miles from. So my dad has to give me rides to and from school each day because he doesn't feel comfortable with me getting rides home from any of my friends' parents since it could be unsafe. That's a long story. And trust me, it's a terribly justified one. It's usually okay, but this past month has been a nightmare. He's picked me up from school hours late so many times, even on days where I don't stay after tutoring and clubs, so I get out with the rest of the students. Since it's almost winter, it gets dark out at about 5:30 p.m., and my dad knows that my mum doesn't like me being out alone when it's dark. She tried talking to him about it 2 weeks ago, but he told her to just mind her business. Well, this past Tuesday is where I might be the a-hole. I had a club after school and then tutoring, so I didn't get ready to leave until 5. As usual, my dad was late. At 5:30, I called and asked where he was, and he told me that he's still on his way. Another 30 minutes passed, and he still wasn't there. So I called him again, and this time, he told me that he'll get there when he gets there. I got ticked off and told him that I could have just gotten a ride home from my friend and her parents if he was not going to show up when he's supposed to, that he was a lousy dad for letting me stand in the dark for over an hour while he did whatever. And he blew up on me and told me that if I was so impatient, then I should just freaking walk home. So I said fine and hung up. I did actually think about walking home, even though it would take me like 4 hours, but I knew that my dad would see me walking, so I just walked to the house of a friend that lived nearby and hung out there for a couple of hours. I ended up turning my phone off when I got there so I wouldn't have to deal with my dad's BS, and then at 9, my friend's mum took me home and dropped me off. As soon as I walked in the door, my dad blew up at me, asking me where I was and why I left the school. I told him that I was with a friend, and he started screaming at me. When I reminded him that he told me to just walk home when he knew that my mum didn't like me walking home in the dark, but he told me that I knew he didn't really mean it, and that I was awful for scaring him like that by pretending to be missing, since I came home hours late with my phone turned off. Yes, OP, how dare you make him eat his words? Make him have to fathom some sort of repercussions for his actions. So now I'm grounded at his house, and even my mum says that even though she agrees that he was out of line, I shouldn't have scared my dad like that to teach him a lesson. I didn't even mean to scare him or make him think I'm missing. I just turned my phone off because I didn't want to get a million texts from him, but I guess I can see why he'd be worried. He's still not talking to me, but I can tell he's ticked off. Am I the a-hole? Now, someone asks about that long story about why he doesn't trust any of the friend's parents to drop her home. OP says that when I was 9, a classmate's dad got arrested for being a child predator. Mum lives in another town and works until 8. Which, okay, but as this comment says, that doesn't mean that every single parent is now a predator. You're 16. Get your driver's license. Your dad is emotionally abusive. Talk to the counselors at school. Oh, but coincidentally, apparently that's not allowed either. As OP asks, what does emotionally abusive mean? And my dad won't let me get my license. I wanted to take the driver's training at school, but he won't let me. Now at this point, you must be thinking that, okay, this dad clearly has some creepy helicopter parenting obsession over their own daughter here. The fact they think any other adult around this child is some sort of predator, the fact that he doesn't want her to have any sort of personal self-autonomy. Like, God forbid your 16-year-old have some ability to get themselves around places and have, you know, some semblance of independence that they're going to need once they're 18. But later that same day, there was a small update made by the OP. So after I made this post, I asked my mum if she could call my dad and ask why he kept being late to come and pick me up. They talked for a while, and turns out he's been late because he's been with a new girlfriend. Not on dates or anything romantic like that. They've just been hooking up at the house, and on his way to pick me up, he takes her home. Again, do you see? Do you see how this man is dealing with his own life choices, slapping him back in the face? But no, he's not the problem here, it's everyone else around him. Well, my mum is mad that he left me alone for hours when he knew that he had to pick me up from school so that he could hook up with some girl, and they got into a huge argument, so my mum blocked him. She told me that she's fed up with my dad. I'm ticked off too. This isn't the first time that my dad has put a girl over me, but this time is different. He doesn't let me get a ride home or go over to any of my friends' houses because he is convinced that I could be in danger. But he left me alone for an hour because he was more concerned with getting his duck wet? Frick no. I talked to my mom, and I'm not going back to his house tomorrow night. Either I'll skip school this week, or she'll drive me there and let me stay at a friend's house until she gets off work. I'll try to update you as the situation develops because I think that my mom is going to try and get custody. Thank you all for the support and the comments, even the rude ones. Yeah, some people genuinely think that despite his behavior, she was still completely in the wrong here. Like some people say here, in today's world, you don't pretend to go missing. If you want to be treated like an adult instead of a kid whose time isn't valuable, make other arrangements for getting home and let your dad know ahead of time. Like, thanks for getting me to school this morning. I know you have a lot on your plate, so X is going to bring me home tonight. I should be there by X. Love you, see you later. Did you not read the part where she wasn't allowed to get lifts from anyone else? As some have said in the next update that clearly you need to give him some sort of ultimatum at this point, like either you actually put some effort in taking care of me as your daughter or you won't have a daughter once I'm 18. And thankfully, as we read before with people offering some information on what emotional abuse is and how to figure out if you're a victim of it and what to do if you are, this causes OP to realize that, okay, there's actually a lot of this that's very relevant to my situation, and so she makes the next best step. Which brings us to this update just a day later. I'm considering cutting off my dad. When I first made the update to my original post on another sub, I was confident that I was, but I've been thinking it over more, and now I don't know what to do. My dad is still my dad, even if he's a bad person, and I do think he loves me, even if he yells at me and puts girls over me. But people in the replies of my original post sent links about emotional abuse, and I read them, and they sound a lot like my dad. I can't get them out of my head. Should I cut him off? Is there any way that I can mend my relationship with him? Please help. Thankfully, Reddit seems to be very supportive of this situation and is offering genuine good advice. Probably helps that they posted in this particular subreddit, I guess. One makes a longer post from the original top comment here about just trying to talk to him about how this is affecting you, like what you've said in the post here. Warning maybe to not do that at all. Based on all the evidence of reading the previous posts they've made, they're concerned that based on the evidence of emotional abuse right now, you prying into him a bit more at this point is just probably going to turn physical. So make sure you've got all your eggs in order before you go ahead and throw this ultimatum in his face. So, with everything prepared, OP realizing that yes, she should go through with this, we move on to the next update that was 3 days later. On Sunday evening, my dad came to get me from my mum's house, and when my mum wouldn't hand me over, he threw a fit. He blew up on me, telling me that I was a horrible daughter for trying to abandon him for my mum's house, and that I was a useless cunt like my mum, and that I needed to learn how much he sacrificed for me. Basically exposing the fact that, yeah, she's made the right choice. He told me that I was cruel for scaring him last week and then trying to leave him alone because my mum turned me against him. It made me cry a lot, to be honest, but he did leave eventually, after my mum threatened to call the cops. He kept spam texting me all night on Sunday and all day yesterday, calling me terrible and saying that he wishes I was aborted because I'm not the same as the daughter he knows, but my mum has his number blocked on my phone now, and she told me not to unblock it. I don't know what's happening on my mum's end, other than my dad wouldn't let her in the house when she tried to go over to get my important documents, but she told me that she's going to try and get full custody of me still. Knowing my dad, he'll try to fight to keep custody, but since I'm old enough, I hope that I can stay with my mom. I've been reading some of the links that I was sent on here, and I appreciate the resources. I realize now that a lot of the behaviors that my dad has done qualifies as emotional abuse now, but to be honest, I have very mixed feelings about all of this. I'm happy to stay with my mom, and I want to be here, but knowing that my dad thinks I'm terrible and wishes that I was never born is really upsetting. It's just really confusing because he also spam texted me telling me that he loves me and wants me to meet his girlfriend. I don't know what to think, but I have been doing research about going to one-on-one therapy, and I don't know how to bring it up to my mum. Is there anyone that's been to one-on-one therapy that can tell me if they like it or not? I've been to family counseling or family therapy before with my parents, but I was a kid, and I don't know if it's different than one-on-one personal therapy. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm picking up complete signs of a man who is trying to manipulate her through more emotional abuse. Like, now that he's genuinely at threat of losing her, he's suddenly love-bombing her after literally telling her he wishes she never existed. Which, of course, is just further feeding into this growing flame within this child that is going to end up being clear daddy issues. And I don't mean that as like a joke, too. Like, this is genuinely going to cause her to struggle to have some sense of independence when it comes to dating guys, if she's into them. Another important thought from the comments. You know he only wants custody of you so he doesn't have to pay child support, right? Like, especially if he's sitting on a large sum of money that he's probably budgeted so that he wouldn't have to find a job to maintain his lifestyle and child support, he'll probably throw a wrench in that plan. He doesn't love you, OP. Especially if he's constantly hurling abuse at you the minute something doesn't go his way. He's abusive to you and your mother. Do yourself a favor and make sure you don't have to go back there. I know you feel a bit guilty now, but that's only because he's probably conditioned you into thinking that upsetting him is one of the worst things you could do. After he realizes he can't scare you into submission, he'll start love-bombing and telling you how he can't live without his only child. Don't fall for it. Don't forget what he said to you. Don't forget what he put you through to have a few extra hours with a woman. Don't let him gaslight or manipulate you just to stay put no matter what he says. With that all said, we come to the latest update, where you experience further pathetic, deplorable attempts for this man to try and come across as a great husband/father. But don't worry, despite all of what's happened, it seems OP was able to eventually see the light through it all. I don't have any updates on a legal perspective because I think my mom is meeting with a lawyer for a consultation this week, so officially, I'm still supposed to be weekdays with my dad and weekends with my mom. I ended up going back to school for the last couple of days of the week of my last update because I had a test and a project to get done. On Wednesday, I went over to my friend's house after school, like I talked about with my mom. But that Thursday, my dad picked me up in the middle of the school day and took me out to lunch to meet his girlfriend. I didn't want to go at first, but I couldn't really do anything else, so I just went with it. He told me that he was sorry for what happened and that he wanted to make it up to me, and then introduced me to his girlfriend. She's really cool, and we got along well. Her major is in a similar field to the one that I want to go into someday, and we talked about it together, and she gave me advice for applying to colleges. She told me that she was sorry for the misunderstanding between me and my dad, which annoyed me, because it wasn't a misunderstanding, but I guess he told her a different version of what happened. My dad didn't say much to me directly at lunch, but he kept interrupting my conversation with his girlfriend to talk about how he's happy that we got along and how proud he is of how I turned out. I didn't really know what to think of it earlier, but looking back on it now, it really ticks me off. Like, what the frick? I ended up going home with him after lunch, and he surprised me with some new clothes. He got me clothes in the style that I actually like, too. I felt really good about the situation. Then we watched TV and cuddling on the couch until I started getting tired. I went to go take a nap in my room, but I ended up falling asleep for longer because when I woke up, it was dark outside, and my dad told me that my mom was going to get me on Monday because she kept me away from him for most of the week. I found out from my mom that my dad called her at her work phone number and told her that if she tried to come and get me, then he'd call the cops on her for harassing him. He actually did call the cops on her while I was asleep because she didn't listen and came to get me anyways, and they made her go home. That Friday, my dad told me that he would pick me up from school, but I told him that I wanted to go home and see my mum. He got upset and asked why, because I spent all week with her, but I insisted and told him that we could just text. We argued about it in the entire ride to school, and he only gave up because I promised I would come over on Thanksgiving and cook and spend the day with him. So I unblocked his number, and we spent a lot of the next few days texting. I guess it was dumb of me too. But to be honest, I just really wanted to talk to my dad, because he was being like how he used to be for once. I wanted to give him another chance. Now, watch how he blows it. The next time I saw him was on the day before Thanksgiving, when he came to pick me up. My mum didn't want to let me go, but I told her that I wanted to, because I honestly wanted to spend time with him. Since we had been texting for a few days, and he didn't say anything bad about me or yell, I really regret it. Thanksgiving was a disaster. Yeah, this is, we've already ticked off emotional abuse. Now we're going to meet the gray area of sexual abuse. Now don't worry, there's nothing of like forcing her down on anything and that kind of stuff, but just this next sentence is very suspicious for an adult to do towards their own child. The morning of, he did an inspection and yelled at me because I wore an outfit my mum bought me that he said made me look like a prostitute. And to be clear, no, it wasn't revealing at all. It was skinny jeans and a black off-the-shoulder sweater. It's revealed later on, but I just want to clarify it here. When she says did an inspection, he pat her down like as if she was some enemy of the TSA. So just take that into account with your current disgust for the man already. Then he made me do all of the cooking when he told me that we would cook together like he promised. Instead, he just sat on his butt and texted his girlfriend because she was having a rough time seeing her family. He only wanted to talk about his girlfriend with me. Among other things, he asked me how I would feel with her as my stepmom. As far as I know, they've only been together for a month or two, and they don't go on many dates, so I have no idea where this came from, but it made me feel like Schmidt that, once again, he put his girlfriend over spending time with me. The only bright side of the day was when I got to eat, but even then, that got ruined because my pie didn't turn out right. And there's a lot of other comments added after this update. It's not done yet, but I just need to highlight this specific point about how old this girlfriend is. I found my dad's girlfriend on Instagram and she's 22. People thought that she was 20 because of how I worded my advice post, so I wanted to clear the record that she's 6 years older than me and not 4. I don't get what she sees in him because he's almost 30 years older and she doesn't seem like she's a sugar baby or gold digger. He is very serious about her though. He told me on Thanksgiving that he thinks he wants to start a family with her. I also don't think she knows the real reason why I was fighting with my dad. So for me personally, this just connects all the dots. The emotional abuse towards his own daughter. The creepy need to inspect her when she comes over. The fact he doesn't want any other adults around her. Is because he's clearly some creepy pedo himself. Note, 30 years older than 22 is someone in their 50s. And he's going after women who are essentially, basically, look, 6 years? That's basically just 2 at this age. Just a few years older than his own daughter. One who he clearly needs and feels the habit to project further daddy issues on. Something I don't doubt that his current girlfriend clearly has, otherwise she wouldn't be constantly needing his approval. Moving on with the update. I texted my mum to come and get me after dinner because I was tired of being there, and I left while my dad was in the bathroom. I told her everything that happened. I cried for like an hour. My dad texted me and asked if I wanted to go see the Black Panther movie with him and his girlfriend, but I said no and told him why. I said that I don't think I want to see him again anytime soon, because I feel like he was putting his girlfriend above me again. He blew up on me again and started doing his usual spam texting. So I told him to leave me alone and blocked him. It's safe to say that I'm done with him for good this time. I feel like such an idiot for deciding to give him another chance. My mum tells me that I shouldn't beat myself up over it, but I wish I hadn't. My mum tried to stop me from going and I didn't listen. But that's all I have to update you on, really. I'm going to hopefully start therapy soon, and now I'm 100% certain that I'm never going back to my dad's. I'm going to see the Black Panther movie with her instead, and she said that I can audition for my school's winter play if I want to. Things are weird right now, but I'm excited to live with my mom and do things I want to instead of being a hermit at my house like my dad made me be. So I guess the lesson that I learned is to always listen to my mum. Also, I will continue reading all of the resources and information that I've been given. I appreciate all of the love and support from you all. Things are difficult for me and I feel like trash because of how much things have changed, but you guys are keeping me afloat. Now down in the comments we get some more info from the OP about the situation. Some fun backstory that if you didn't hate the dad yet, well, seriously, how do you not hate the dad yet? My parents divorced when I was a kid because my dad cheated on my mum. She decided to forgive him at first, and we did some family counseling and therapy for a while, but after he cheated again, she filed for divorce. My dad has primary custody of me because during the divorce, my mum couldn't afford to fight him for custody after a while, and he had a better lawyer. My mum has never done anything to endanger or mistreat me. The reasons that he told her that she only has me on weekends for a reason is because he wanted to make her angry. What is with all the women in this guy's life giving him second chances? Does he have like a maxed out charisma stat? Also, when I say that my dad has put girls over me before, I mean a couple of things. Aside from cheating on my mom and this, he's had a few girlfriends that hated me and wanted me to go live with my mom full time. He would cancel our father-daughter dates and pick me up a day later at points because a girlfriend wanted to see him. I'm used to it, and that's why I felt like a dick for being surprised. Now on to the weird inspections. I don't know how to describe my dad's inspections other than it's similar to when you get patted down by airport security. He started doing it when I was 13, and he does it often. I'm usually fully clothed when he does it, but he has done it before while I was in my underwear. My mum doesn't know about this, but thanks to the advice and help of some Redditors, I will tell her. Now, I found another comment where she seems to elaborate on that, saying, he has told me before that he does it to make sure that no one has ever hurt or molested me, but I don't know if he was telling the truth. He isn't. That's just disgusting, and I don't really want to react this way because it comes across that making the OP here feel like an idiot for not realizing this. Like, no. You are absolutely fine here yourself. It's the anger is towards the adult here, who should have been an adult. Like, this man is a clearly creepy, predatory sack of schmidt that was just foreshadowing himself the moment he wasn't letting her go home with any other adults. Yes, my dad still spanks me, and because I know someone asked, he uses his hand and not a belt or a paddle. So I don't know much about sexual abuse, so I couldn't tell you whether he does that or not, aside from the inspections, since people think that counts. If anyone has resources about this, I would appreciate them, or if anyone has specific questions about things that might count, I can tell them if he's done it or not. Also, my dad doesn't want me going to friends' houses, getting rides homes, or anything, because when I was a kid, a classmate's dad turned out to be a pedo, and he doesn't want me to be molested or killed. I've told him that it's stupid, it makes no sense, but he doesn't listen. So yes, it seems that this case OP is still looking into therapy and finding resources from the many helpful people down below in the comments, providing what they can to get this young woman the help she deserves to get. As some comments say, hopefully they're saving all these text messages for the custody judge to see. Same. But I would hope that I put my daughter in danger numerous times so I could get my duck wet would be enough as is. So yeah, fingers crossed that things do turn out for the better for OP here. That is where the updates end, so we can only hope that he somehow, some hacker out there decides to just take all his money out of his accounts. I don't know. Just saying, if you guys want to do it, you should totally do that. But that's where we'll end today's stories here. Thank you as always for watching. Big thank you to the OP letting us know about this whole drama they're going through right now, and all the best that people's handy advice helps make their life a little easier. For now though, you yourself be good too. Make sure you're drinking your water, and until next time, eat frozen peas. They're strangely delicious as a snack when you can't be bothered eating anything else. Anyway, bye!